They're incredibly intelligent, sophisticated creatures. When you start paying attention to their habits and the way that they work, you know, it's quite fascinating. I am André Flys. We're here in Nobleton, Ontario at Pioneer Honey, which I am the owner and operator of. This has been there all winter. Just gets nice dark color. It, you know, keeps them warm with the sun through the winter. We feel like we're ready for them to come off. The beginning of the season is a lot of inspection and trying to balance out strengths and, you know, clean things up, clean up the dead ones, which I'll eventually get to once we get through dealing with the living ones. You know, it changes later in the season. We'll be adding honey supers to collect honey. I have been a beekeeper as a hobbyist for almost all my life. My grandfather was a beekeeper in the city of Toronto. He started keeping bees from 1930 at the forks of the Don River. He had a cabin down there. My dad learned from him and I learned from him, and we've run Pioneer Honey as a commercial venture for the past 12 years now. Okay, now we'll get on with finding the queen. Ontario has some 12 million people in it, and there's 3,000 beekeepers. There's just not that many of us. It used to be much more popular way back when, but it's sort of gotten forgotten in between and become more popular lately. But I think that's what makes it an odd job, is just, you know, people think to themselves, who wants to deal with a bunch of stinging insects, right? As good as honey tastes.
So how many times have you been stung?
Today, none. Sorry, there's a bee running around. Yep. Got me right in the armpit. Those are always the worst spot.
And what's your record?
Oh, there was one time when we first started doing pollination. I don't know, it was somewhere around 100 one night.
What?
Both my wife and I, yeah. It was a hot night and we were moving bees out of an apple orchard for pollination. And the last thing you want to do is move bees when it's hot out. They just get cranky. Sometimes vegans get a little crazy about beekeeping and they think that we're enslaving bees, you know, and we're cruel to bees, and you know, putting smoke on the bees is cruel to them, and keeping them is cruel to them. You know, I mean, I like to think that we try to look after our livestock as best we can. We look after their health. We make sure they don't, you know, when they get sick, they get medicine. If they don't have food available to them, we feed them. You know, we really try to make sure we don't squish them when we're working with them, that they can thrive, because if they don't thrive, we don't thrive.
Unfortunately, for the past, I guess, over a decade now, a lot of the news about bees has been negative.
Bees are just another one of those casualties that are starting to add up. You know, we're losing forage and habitat for them, just like our other species. We're turning either into houses or highways or monoculture. We're exposing them to pesticides and fungicides, and they're having a hard time surviving. Honey is obviously just a tiny part of the importance of bees, and again, I'll keep reiterating the state of just not my honeybees, my European honeybees, because they're the only ones that really make honey, but bumblebees and all the other bees, they're all important to pollinate our food. I feel like it's almost a trope at this point because it's said so often, but you know, two bites out of everything you eat is thanks to a pollinator. So we would be limited to wheat, oranges. You know, our shelves in our grocery stores would be a very different place without pollinators out there. You got her? Yeah. Excellent. She's quite large right now. Like in the winter, she'd be smaller because she wouldn't be filled with eggs. Right now, she is loaded with eggs. She can lay about 1,500, 2,000 a day. We work out here with nature. We are in touch with how our bees are interacting with the environment on an almost daily basis. So it's like we're a canary in a coal mine. We can see a lot of things happening quickly, and in that respect, you know, I mean, apart from the food and us pollinating crops and pollinating blueberries, etc., I think we're here as a beacon to tell a message that what's happening to our environment. And I see that as probably the most important role of a beekeeper nowadays. And I think largely that's why bees have become and pollinators have come under the spotlight. And you know, people like myself, as important as beekeeping is to me, I mean, it literally puts food on my table. But you know, if we don't have a place where we can all live in and produce food, I mean, it's not going to be a fun world to live in.